Hello, this is Kara from Lady Kara Tarot, and today I'm doing a VR hashtag Tarot Decks for Life. This was the brainchild of the magnificent Simon at the Hermit's Cave. And when I first saw this, I thought, oh, well, I'm not going to do that because I just did my soul deck video. And so everybody's always seen the choices that I would make. Because there were, if not 10, there were close to 10 there. That I eliminated to find my soul deck. And then I did watch some other people's. I watched Ellen's at Momentaro, Julia, highly sensitive people, I'm blanking on your channel name, it's Julia, I'm sorry, I'll have it below. And Ina at Taproot Tarot, and then Martin at Martin's Musings. And I have him last because I don't think he did this, but he said something about not showing his usual suspects, the decks that we see all the time. And then he had some other way of selecting them. And I don't remember exactly what it was that he did to select them, but what it did is it triggered for me as like, oh, I definitely have 10 other decks that, and maybe about, like Julia, maybe possibly 100 other decks that I'm not going to get, that are going to stay in my collection. So then it was just a matter of how I defined the 10 that I was going to choose from. So most of you who follow me know that I am particularly fond of decks based on authors and famous artists. And that's my free pass in when I thought I was doing a low buy, which has dematerialized. When I thought I was doing a low buy, my free pass was decks that feature the life and work of an artist or an author. So those are the decks that I am featuring in this 10 tarot decks for life. I mostly keep it to 10. And what I will do is, because many of the decks in my lineup are actually decks that would qualify for this, so I will mention those because I've been showing those other decks, my usual suspects, I've been showing quite a bit recently in different formats. So, and then I'm just going to go alphabetically. So I start with Jane Austen. The Jane Austen Tarot Deck by Jackie Oakley. As many of you know, it is a truth universally acknowledged that a Jane Austen tarot deck only has 53 cards and isn't really a tarot deck. It is, but it's interesting. You can see from this first card, the way the majors are handled, it's basically a deck of cards. We'll start there. Basically, it's the normal deck of cards. Jack, Queen, King, 1 through 10, Ace through 10. Randomly, kind of a random selection, we have a banner with a major arcana card on it. You can hear my dog barking outside if she keeps that up. She's barking at the squirrels that are eating the bird seed, and she thinks that the bird seed is her bird seed. So, so these have banners with the major arcana cards named on them. So, for example, this card you could either read as the 10 of Cups, being the 10 of Hearts, or you can read it as the Wheel of Fortune, or you could read it as some kind of combination of both. And then there are 2 of the major arcana cards missing, which I have just chosen and identified on my own from within the deck what made sense to me. But I love the illustrations of this deck. Out of all of the Jane Austen decks that I've seen, I really feel that this deck best captures the style of illustration that was seen in the books, the original books, or the type of illustration that was around that time. So you'll see characters are selected here. And, you know, scenes. But what I like about this deck is that you can just play a regular card game with it because of the way it's structured. You can use it as a tarot deck using the banners for the majors. And the book mentions the characters that are chosen on the cards when they come up, and mention concepts and how they might fit into Austen's work. But at the same time, it really doesn't give a lot of information, so that to me, it actually operates more as a Sibylla. And I'm kind of partial to Sibyllas now. Sibylla might be becoming my second favorite genre after tarot. So, the Jane Austen tarot deck. The tarot deck that isn't a tarot deck, but it's also more. That's definitely a case of when less is more. So next is one I'm not going to show, so it's not on this list, is the William Blake Tarot. Obviously, it falls into this category of artist and author decks, but I just showed it in another video recently, so I'm not going to show that. And I'll move on to the Hieronymus Bosch Tarot. If you have this deck, you know Travis McHenry really bastardized the system and turned it into, I believe it's 6 suits with 10 cards each, and all of the cards are court cards and an ace. I think that's right. And included the 7 deadly sins. So I think of this, I'm glad I had discovered and figured out working with Minchiati decks before this came along, because that way of thinking about the groupings and the 7 virtues really helped me unpack this and how I was going to work with it. I did a month focus on this deck, and I have a fair amount of videos about how I worked with it. And I will say, he has a table in the guidebook that really defines how he defines and works with the suits that he created. And it's very clear. So it is a very clear system, although it's quite different from a normal system. And I have this just the magnificent artworks of Bosch. Has beautiful teal gilding on the side, and really lovely, smooth, wonderful weight cards. So I'm not a fan of McHenry's worldview, but I think this is an interesting deck, and I like what he did with this. And of course, it's Hieronymus Bosch. And it happened that shortly before this came out, I was watching a lot of, there are a lot of wonderful videos about Bosch and his worldview, and that he definitely meant these horrific, mostly horrific images to be a cautionary tale. He felt he was a religious zealot and felt that the world was filled with sin, and these were his depictions of all the sins and depravity that he saw in the world. and he definitely felt that his paintings were a cautionary tale of, you know, your permanent reenactment of your sins in the next world if you don't shape up. And that was kind of Bosch's take on things. Cheery, cheery. Not someone I would want to have dinner with. Hieronymus Bosch, tarot. Beautifully produced. And impossible to work with as a normal tarot system. This is a different card system using the artwork of Bosch. And there's the rub. If tarot simply means cards, then yeah, those are cards, but it's not a tarot deck. So next would be the Botticelli deck, which again, I just showed in my Fae, Fairy, and Fairy Adjacent video. So I won't be showing that. And I'm moving on to Homer, the Odyssey, the Odyssean Tarot by Welkin. Which has, of course, the marvelous guidebook that is typical of Welkin decks. The borders are colored. This is a feature that I particularly like, is borders that are colored for the suit. So I believe that is Earth or Pentacles. The black is Swords. The dark blue is Cups. This kind of teal is the Majors. I'll have to be a little careful about classical nudity in this deck. That's why I have the cards off the screen before I pull them out. 1, 2, 3. 3 nudies. Okay, and there's a 4th. He has strategic grape leaves. And they have strategic loincloths. I think the artwork in this deck is just beautiful. And I need to mention the artist here. I guess it's Chris Leech. That's who wrote the book, and there doesn't seem to be any other credit there. With many allusions to more well-known classical artworks. So it's, in that respect, it's almost a collage deck. This is a deck that I have worked with some because it's faithful enough to the Rider-Waite system that you can work with it directly, but I intentionally haven't done a great deal of work with it because I do want to become more familiar, better familiar with all of the Greek stories that are included or alluded to here in this deck. Hello, Zeus. Odyssean Tarot, a Hermetic Odyssey. Then again, two more mentions, decks that I've shown a lot and mentioned a lot. Jessica Lee Howard's Forager's Daughter Tarot, which I know I'll be showing again soon because I'm about to get the Oracle decks for that are probably going to ship out late this month or next month. So when I get that Oracle deck, I'll be having that. And then J.J. Granville's Les Métamorphoses du Jour, I just, again, showed recently. And I almost always show it with the Parisian Sibyl. That is also artwork by J.J. Granville. I just adore them separately and together. So number 4 now is the Japaridze Tarot, artwork by Nino Japaridze. She was first commissioned to do 22 major artworks for a majors only art show. And that was received so well then that she was commissioned to do the rest of the deck. At the time of her creating this deck, she was one of the few living female artists working in the genre of surrealism. She has since moved on to working in different styles, and I think you can sort of see the transition happening in, I mean, here she has references to more classical paintings. But the aces sort of give you an idea that she's moving into a different style rather than the surreal style. All of the winds characters have bats referenced in them. So those bats are the winged creature references, and well, or a fairy. Gardens have butterflies and plants. There's so much to see, to work with, to unpack in this deck. I enjoy the depth of the colors, but obviously some of them are not colored. But there's a clarity of vision. There are some, just as the aces, that move into more geometrics, and so I don't know, but I suspect that that's the direction her artwork was moving into more geometric work, because we have this influx of geometric patterns then in some of the cards. Here again, the geometric patterns that almost create fractals here. So this is so interesting. This is the epitome, I think, of what she's trying to do. The farther away you get, it just looks like a diamond reflecting light. But if you look at it more closely, you're seeing just these geometric squares and bits and bobs. But again, it recurs enough that it's not foreign to the deck. And then this is a specific feature of her native folklore that's somewhere between alien form or otherworldly form. And there's I don't remember the name for it now, but these little things show up in large and small forms throughout the deck. So, number 4, the Japaridze Tarot. Next is the recreation of a deck from 1940 of the illustrator Pierre Lasenic, the Lasenic Tarot. This was originally published in 39 as just a black and white deck, and then in 1940 it was released with color. I didn't realize I had ordered this. So there's a strong 1940s advertising art influence in this deck. And these cards look like butter and they feel like butter. Like butter. The grapes here within the swords and bones. I've spoken before about this eagle. This was a Germanic state eagle before, that preceded Hitler. And then Hitler kind of took that form and they changed it to the eagle that was used during his regime. So it was close enough to seem recognizable, but also distinctly different. And this style of advertising then did come over to American advertising. I mean, this style of artwork came over and became part of American advertising style. A nice Zoftig world. So there's a darkness here because of the black backgrounds of the majors. The devil with definitely a feminine shape, all the curves. The fashion art of this time also was influenced by this style, and that's probably where my interest in it comes. But because I did study art a lot, art was my refuge when I was growing up. So, and the art room was my refuge. And so I was very interested in different historical art styles. That is the Pierre Lasenic Tarot. Oh, and I forgot to mention, this was, he was a Czech esotericist. And so this was a Czechoslovakian card deck. So you see, this was Tarot de Marseille style, done in this modern illustration style. But so in Europe, they were still, this was 1940s, well after both of the English system decks came along. But in Europe, they were still primarily using the Tarot de Marseille style decks. Some of you will have been waiting for this next one. My beloved Edvard Munch Tarot for Relationships. And for me, this is not a relationship deck. This is an everything deck. I will often, and it has about 50% of the deck is landscape. Doesn't bother me one little bit. I actually enjoy that, incorporating that difference. And it just so tickled because we really only know the Scream. When Edvard Munch's name is mentioned, that's really his only artwork. And that's like the saddest thing for an artist when he has this wealth of body of work to really only be known for one thing. Classical nudity here, obviously. And his works are highly emotionally charged. And the guidebook for this is incredible. This deck is very, very inexpensive. It's still available on her website. And I do like that we have these other words, which means this deck can be used as an oracle deck. And I really like a deck that can be used in multiple ways. But you can just see the burst of color and also the moodiness of his artwork. And I say, use relationship decks for work readings, because what is work if not a relationship? And the Emperor agrees. The Edvard Munch Tarot, and as I said, the guidebook just has such a refreshing slant on there's a full page on each card. Not quite half the page is about the artwork and where it was in his life, so you can learn about his life. But then the rest of it is broken up in a variety of relationship angles, and it just creates a whole new way of looking at the meanings of each card that is still completely coherent with the traditional way that we know them. So it's the best of both worlds. And I would say she probably has the guidebook available again on her website now. The deck and the book together, I'd say, are still what we would now call mass market price, or at least maybe the upper range of mass market decks. But I cannot speak more highly of it. The Edvard Munch Tarot. So the next deck that I'm skipping by because I just showed it recently is the Renowned Artist Tarot. The artwork of Samantha Perez and guidebook by Laura Reyes. It just, all in her own very cohesive style, it pays homage to a plenitude of great artists, both traditional and modern art. And so we move from her to my number 7 deck by Zephyr Pfautenhauer, the Bon Sequitur Tarot, a square tarot deck with this incredibly fun pattern on the box, the Bon Sequitur Tarot. This is the first edition. And using it's a limited color palette, but it's a pop art style and definitely, modern images. It's refreshing in the way that it brings these images up to date with also references here to 1940s artwork that we saw in the Lasenic deck. So it's a range of pop art styles, but because the color palette is limited, they all have this unity. And then just wonderful new takes, highly inventive. I will be honest, I have not looked at the guidebook for this at all, even though I have read with it. I don't think I've even glanced at it yet. So that's something I have felt that I haven't needed it, because when things are faithful to the Rider-Waite-Smith system, that's really not fair to the artist and writer, though, because they may have brilliant observations, which I have not yet partaken in. So when I read this, I do read it in all four directions. I take directionality into account. As I said, I reordered this, so it's all been reordered and all put up right. I love this Empress. She looks like a friend of mine. And this fool just gleefully stepping off the edge and abandon. The Bon Sequitur Tarot. Number 8, the artwork of Odilon Redon in the Chimera Tarot. Redon and Roland, Natasia Roland did the compilation of these images and wrote the book, and I have sung her praises often. Her writing is incredible, deeply researched and intense and poetic, and there are additional cards in this deck. We'll start right off with them. Genus Loci, Visionary, the Muse, the Trickster, Chimera, and those are the extra cards. And then it couldn't be more different visually from the deck we were just looking at. These have a beautiful linen finish. They're gilded on the side. This image actually reminds me of some of the knights in the Minchiati decks. But this is definitely a dreamscape that we're working with here. The symbolist, the artist, that's what they were after. They were after a language that's spoke beyond words, a visual language that could transcend what could be spoken. And here we have it. Now, he did, I understand there was another deck, and I can't remember the name, of his artwork that was in color, and these are taken from his sketches, and perhaps some of them, his color works rendered in black and white, but it's tremendously effective. In the United States, art schools tend to compartmentalize people more. Natasia Roland studied in Europe, and I feel it's much more common for people to be interdisciplinary artists there, which is what I am. They're people who write, they paint, they draw, they do music. Here in America, there's much more of an attitude if you go to a drama school if you want to act. And if you want to be a director, you go to a drama school and you study directing. There's a lot more bifurcation within the arts. And I think in Europe, just as with the British acting system, it is expected that you will work on television, stage, and film, that you will work in all of them and flow back and forth. Whereas here, you tend to be categorized as a stage actor or actress or TV or film. And then the TV and film people will take starring roles on stage because they've got the name to bring the bank in. Not necessarily because they can handle a long run on stage. And there are plenty of stories about big name film and TV actors who have not survived runs very well on a stage run. And plenty do, of course. So that was number 8. Odilon, Redon, Tarot, Chimera. Number 9, another Welkin deck, the Shakespeare Tarot. And one of the reasons I was so drawn to this, aside from it being Shakespeare, is that it is a landscape deck. There's a lot going on in each of these, including quotes from the plays and sonnets. It's a collage art. Again, this beautiful, soft, matte finish. Not rose petal, but just buttery softness. Like the Lasenic cards feel the same way. Now, I do have another Shakespeare tarot deck, the Shakespeare Oracle, that is really a tarot deck, but it had to be named Oracle because of the copyright issues at the time. And that's a pip deck, which I really enjoy. And I have another Jane Austen deck, but I thought I'll just pick my top one of the Austen decks and pick my top one of the Shakespeare decks. This is another one that it's on my shelf of my study decks. Obviously, if you watch my daily drawings, that's from Titus Andronicus. I really wanted to play Tamara. Tamara, I auditioned with her monologues regularly. Tamara was the evil queen. It's a wonderful role, and I just never had the opportunity to play it. So I was going to say, if you've been watching my daily drawings, you know that I regularly quote literature. You know, that my head is filled with these random quotes from lyrics, plays, and poetry, and books. And so, you know, I've worked, I studied at the Shakespeare Theater. And so but as an actress, I never, sat down and read the plays. I would read a play if I was auditioning for that play, or if I was cast in that play. I would read the play. Occasionally I would sit down, and I took place in some round robin play reading events where you would, within the course of a weekend, all of Shakespeare's plays would be read out loud. I've done some of those. But I don't know the whole canon because I haven't, some of them are almost never produced. And so I know the ones that I've worked in and that I've learned the lines. And then there are other lines that just stick in your head even though you've never worked on that play. The Shakespeare Tarot. So that was my number 9. This is my number 10 deck. The artwork of E.H. Shepard is that, now this deck does not have his artwork, but it's a tribute to his artwork. The Wisdom of Pooh Tarot, and it's 2 for 1 here because we also have a tribute to A.A. Milne in the creation of this deck. And it's just beautifully, the artist that worked on this did a beautiful job of evoking the original artwork while creating something different. And if you haven't seen the book, it's wonderful because they show some of the alternative drawings, or they'll start with the drawing that they wanted to capture the feeling of, but they were changing the details so it would better match the card. And that was, I just think, just wonderful. This was my Drop'em 78, although I didn't complete that process. There are 2 fools, and the lovers are precious friends. So there's some minor changes. So I didn't complete that because it was December, and, aside from being December and everything being on me and trying to, at that time, my mother was still able to come downstairs, so trying to maintain some sense of, Christmas decor and normalcy and celebration for her, and it looks like that will be her last Christmas, the way things are going right now. And even if it isn't, she won't be downstairs. She's confined to her bed now. So she can really only see, whatever decoration goes up in her room. So I just couldn't handle Drop'em 78. And so I got most of the way through, but it really allowed me to really dive deeply into the book that goes with this deck. And they wrote a new story for each card. In addition to doing meanings and everything else, the book is incredibly expensive. I think it's $125. But it's not your typical guidebook. As I said, they wrote a new story in that style for each card. So it's a really incredible task. Now, this was the first edition before Tigger came out of copyright. And so then they have the Wisdom of Pooh and Tigger 2 as a different deck, where they then included Tigger. Because when I grew up, Tigger was not on the scene yet. I always felt like Tigger took over, and I didn't like that. I liked this quieter world without the ebullient Tigger, and and anyone, if you know me, you know I'm more of an Eeyore gal, although Piglet was the toy that I had as a child that I loved. I think most people would say that I am, both physically and emotionally, I'm more of an Eeyore. And so I'm very glad that I have this version. I was able to get it with the canary yellow edging, which was an option. I think they only have the gilded option available now. So I felt really lucky that I came across this. This had been my, you know, if you want to talk about a dream deck, this was the dream deck that I thought didn't exist. And then kind of as I was really realizing that, I became aware that this was available. And so at that time, it was the most expensive deck that I had gotten. And it's still up there. It has come down in price significantly now, but when it was first available, it was up there. So now, of course, we're at W. I'm doing these alphabetically, and this is for E.H. Shepherd, so we're at S, but we're also at the Wisdom of Pooh. Well, you know, and I know that the Vachetta is an art deck that is my soul deck, and I just did a side-by-side of the Vachetta and the Tarot of the Masters, and so if you want to enjoy that glorious artwork of Giovanni Vachetta, you can go and look at that. And so this is my 10th deck, but if you may have noticed, my first deck was not really a tarot deck. It was more of a Sybil deck. And the second deck, the Bosch, isn't really a tarot deck in my book because it's a completely different system. So I am giving you an extra deck. And it even works in alphabetically, almost. Not by the name of the artist, but by the name of the tarot. And this is a new deck for me. I only got this last month, the Visionary Woman Tarot. And I just think the artwork and what I've read of the book is incredible. Incredible. And you'll see I don't have anything like this. Nothing in this art style. Hopefully you will have seen this, you know, broad array of art styles that have infused my table here. Pardon me. Lovely, smooth, kind of almost plasticky, tough feeling cards, but still light enough to shuffle. The saturation of the colors, I love here. The density of just the weight of the paint and the illustrations is remarkable to me. And these wonderful faces. It's a little bit pippy, it's a little bit country, it's a little bit rock and roll. It's a little bit pippy, it's a little bit decorated, it's a little bit up close, and it's a little bit far away, and it's just all in this wonderful, wonderful modern art style that's sort of graphic art, sort of poster art style. I can definitely see some sort of lineage between this artwork and the Munch artwork. obviously other influences in there too, but the tower as a backbone, isn't that fascinating? And boy, can I identify with this. I've been here all day long. My back has been like that all day long. The hermit with a cat. Cat lady hermit. Marvelous emperor. Look at that. The cover picture, the high priestess. And I'll move these three out. The magician, the fool, the magician, and the high priestess. Just wonderful. The vision of Christine Gorman and the book by Christine Gorman as well. Just magnificent. This is my extra deck for Tarot Decks for Life. I haven't even worked with it yet, and I don't have any question that this deck is going to be a keeper. Sometimes you just know. I hope you've enjoyed going through these with me. I very much enjoyed seeing other people's picks and thoughts about how they pick now. And I'll just a reminder, these are not my top 10 decks. If you want to see them, you can go look at my Discovering Your Soul deck VR. You'll see most of my soul decks there, or at least mentioned there. Those would be my top 10 decks, but these are definitely 10 decks that are not going anywhere. And again, as Julia said, she said maybe she needs 20, and I'm like, maybe 100, maybe 120. I can see living with these. As I've said before, I get rid of decks pretty quickly if I don't feel that connection with them. And I've so far have not. I work with them enough to feel confident that it's not working and let it go. But I still have plenty. I still have plenty that are going to be keepers. Thanks for spending this time with me. I hope you enjoyed this. And I hope you'll do it too, because I'm so enjoying looking at other people's selections and how they come to that selection and how they arrive at those choices. This is Cara from Lady Cara Tarot. Thank you so much.